Doggy's gone. We can start. This is before the blow up.
Episode what?
7.
7.
Dude, we've been pumping these out.
Thanks for being on, mate. Appreciate it, dude.
Appreciate it, Sam.
It's all right, man. Tell us a bit about yourself. I don't really know you really at all. Obviously, Josh does, but
Yeah.
tell
I've been
the
slaving
I'm
for
really
him.
good at throwing bricks off roofs at Josh. That's what I'm good at. Yeah, not too much, eh? Just kind of like, was kind of the same as Josh when I was like his age, and then did my leg, and then had COVID, didn't get to go overseas, nothing, and then went to go overseas again and did my arm, and it's been like, got like 3 years since I did my arm, and it's like, can like just ride again, and like, still better than Josh, obviously, but
Hectic. So, but when you were like riding good, like you did go overseas though for like a few crank
yeah.
races
So
and stuff.
I think, what was it, like 2018? I went over with like no expectation. I just went over. I was like, oh, I gotta go over. Like everyone goes over, and then I like didn't know anyone, and I like pretty much mum planned everything. Mum was that good, and then like landed at airport, didn't know how I was getting to Whistler from Vancouver. Was freaking out, trying to ring mum. It's like 3 a.m. at home. She finally picks up. She's like, what's up? What's up? I was like, dude, how am I getting to Whistler? She's like, you have a bus. It's like in your notes. You have an itinerary. And I was like,
mate. You made your itinerary.
oh,
Oh,
it's so
dude,
good.
shout
Just
out to
like,
Mumsy.
Just through the messages, it was just like this, and this. And I just completely blanked.
Oh no.
In my defense, it's like, what, like a 14-hour flight. And I probably slept like an hour.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
I left at like 8 or 9 a.m. and then you'd land at like 8 or 9 a.m. or whatever it was. So it was like
Yeah.
full day, no sleep. And I
Full
was just
cycle.
out of it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. But you did get to Whistler though.
Yeah. So I like got there. I think I was like there for like a month.
Yeah.
And it was like, I didn't know anyone. And then I met Pat Crossing.
Mm.
And I'd like known him mutually. And then I started hanging out with him and then kind of was just riding with him. And then who did I meet? I met Remy Morton.
Yeah.
Remy
Yeah.
was that good. He like, I think he known me from like just talking to him on Instagram. And
Yeah.
then pretty much I just rode with him. And it was, yeah, pretty sick.
Yeah.
And it was just, like in all, like it's like one of those things when you first go over, you like don't remember half the trip because you're like
Just buzzing the
just
whole
that
time.
buzzing. Like I go through my memories and I'm like, fuck, I don't even remember going there. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
just that stoked on being there. And then who else? Oh, I forget his name. It's Max something. His name's Free Dumb on
Instagram.
Yeah, he's a pommy boy and he's does art and everything. He was on like that crew with Bryceland and that on the Cannondales.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I met him and he was like, oh, come ride tomorrow. And I went riding with him and he was filming with Alex Rankin,
Yeah.
who's like
He's a gangster.
just the goat of filming. And then he's like, oh, just come with us. And I was like, all right. I was just sitting there watching. And then he's like, halfway through the day, he's like, dude, you're going to ride? I want to film you. I was like, oh my God, he wants to film me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just went and filmed with them and it was just sick.
Yeah. How good, eh?
And-
Were you like bumming in Whis?
Nah, I was
Or, like-
pretty good. I like, mum was like I'd been working and
Yeah.
then mum and dad dad was like, nah, you got to pay for everything. And I was like, oh shit. And then like at the end of it, dad gave me money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I was like kind of bummed because the only good accommodation was in Creekside, which is like, it's like the next little town over. And I thought it was like really far.
Mm.
And it's like a 5-minute push bike ride. And I didn't like know what Creekside was. And then I got there and it has its own lift that like goes to the top of the peak and everything. So I was like,
So it's not that bad.
yeah, I was way happier because I got there and then I think I was there for like 2 or 3 days and then Waygood, I was staying with Waygood, came over.
Nick.
Yeah. So
Dude,
Nick
he's
stayed with
OG.
me. Such a good dude. And I didn't know him that well. And I was like, oh, it's probably going to be awkward or what. And then he got there and he was just like, what's up, dude? And it was like,
Yeah.
it was good.
That was the same with me. I'd like knew of him in Oz, but then when I got overseas, like, and he came and hung out at like the van once, I was like, dude's sick.
Such a nice dude.
Yeah, yeah.
How old were
One
you?
of the nicest dudes. I'm 24 this year.
No, how old were you when you were over there?
17. I think I turned 18 when I was over there.
Yeah, right.
But I didn't know that it was like 19 to drink over there. So it was like, but luckily I like met a bunch of boys that got me in everywhere. So it was good.
Yeah.
So you went pretty. All the slopestyle boys hang out, party hard, eh?
Oh, I couldn't believe it because I was like, what? I was like just fresh off leaving school. And then I was like, I think I just started working with dad quite a bit.
Yeah.
And like all I'd do was go to work, go home, ride, and then go sit in my bed and watch mountain bike videos and movies. And that was it. And we had like a really cool group of friends. I'd been mates with Tyson Richens,
Yeah.
like since I started, and him, Corin, who's kind of stopped riding now, and then like Arcus and Troy. So it was like we had like a really good group, and like I didn't really understand that we were quite good because when I went over there, I had no expectations at all. And I remember I did Air DH and I made mum let me buy a UCI license. So I got to do junior elite instead of like the amateur category.
Yeah.
Just because I like.
You have to, because that gets your name.
Yeah, I just
everywhere.
wanted to go up with everyone. And I was like at the top and it was like Lucas Cruz and who else? Chandro and a bunch of other dudes that I like didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 90 dudes and I dropped in like second. And then sat on the hot seat for like an hour and a half. And I got to like, it just kept ticking off and ticking off and ticking off. And then I was like top 10 and it was top 5. And then there was 3 dudes left and all 3 of them beat me and I got 4th. And I was like, oh, no way. And I was like so bummed. And then it took me like an hour and then I was like, oh, I just got 4th. That's so good.
Yeah.
And I was like looking at the list and everything and it was like kids that I followed on Instagram. And I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, that's sick. What was it like for you, like when you came home from a trip?
So shit.
Yeah.
So shit. I remember I landed on like the Wednesday or Thursday and then we went, what was it? I think it was the last state round at like Green Valleys or something.
Yeah.
It was like,
Which you got banned from, hey? You got banned from Green Valleys.
Why'd you get banned from there?
a mix of things.
Yeah.
Not podcastable talk.
Nah, I'll talk about it. But like in my defense, there's a list of like 50 people that have been banned from Green Valleys.
Yeah.
But like I just landed and it was the same old track that like we always race because it was like me, Corin and Tyson and like Ethan Corney and Pacey Stockton who doesn't really ride anymore, I don't think.
I think I know him, eh?
He used to ride, he was on Lusty. He was on the same team Paddy was on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, such a good dude too. And it was just like we always used to compete and whatnot. It was the same track. And it was like I did the first run of practice and I was just like, this sucks. It sucks so much.
Yeah.
Like, not like-
everything's flat.
Oh, it's just
Nothing's
oh,
cool.
it's just shit. It was just so bad.
Yeah.
It was like a minute and a half long too. So I was like, oh.
That's one thing, eh? Aussie tracks are so
And
short.
I was like literally that bummed out that I just got smoked.
Yeah.
I was like not wanting to ride, not want to do anything. So
I got that, eh? Well, not that I didn't want to ride, but like, it felt like the end of a movie that you didn't want to end.
yeah, every time you watch like a TV series or a movie and you get like full bummed out that it's done, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's like you've just had the probably best experience of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like over and you're back in reality.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
The only like good thing was because I ended up podiuming in slalom,
Yeah.
which was sick. And I think that was
In
with
Wiss or Rotorua?
Yeah, in Wiss. That
Yeah.
was with because like I was all bummed about Air DH, and then the next day we did that, and I podiumed it, so I was like happy. I think that was with like Lucas Cruz, and I think Garrett Meacham, who's a full like free ride dude now. He's like so sick on a bike,
Yeah.
insane on a bike. But yeah, and then it was like I got home and I was all upset, and it was like the only good thing was because I'd done really well. Dad was like lenient on me going overseas again.
Yeah.
So it was sick. And then we went to, where did I go to? I went to Roto and I met MS1 in Roto.
MS1.
Oh, I love that kid.
Luke, that's Luke Smith for you. He rides for Giant Factor Racing now.
Wait, Luke Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remy's brother?
Yeah, Remy's brother.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd met them in Whistler like super short because what was it? I don't know how they were young, and like their dad was just running Remy around, and I met them briefly, and he's like, "Oh, can you take Luke for a ride?" And I was like, I didn't want to be mean because I was like so focused on racing. I was like, I don't want to take this like random kid riding. And we took him up Garbo, and it was like a minute into the track, he dropped me, and I was like, who's this kid, man? And then I got to meet him, and he was like the nicest kid, and his dad was so nice.
Avo man.
Their mums was the Avo man.
The Avo man.
They're so nice.
Oh, yeah, that's good. After you got your results, did you feel like you can make something of yourself? Like,
Yeah,
is that kind of
'cause I
what kept
was-
you going when you got
Oh,
home?
100%. Because it was kind of a bummer trip because I'd done really well. And then in downhill, I absolutely railed myself and just knocked myself silly, and I didn't get to race downhill. So it was kind of like,
What was your top like placement?
so I got fourth in EDH, then third in slalom, and then that was it. Because I didn't do Garbo because everyone was like, nah, Garbo's shit. Like, don't bother doing it. You'll wear yourself out for the week. And
It's
then it
just like the longest downhill run
It's
ever.
like 9 minutes. But it was kind of silly because after I'd done the results, none of the boys that had finished ahead of me even did Garbo either.
So you would have got
So
the
I
overall.
should have done Garbo and like got the overall, but I fell off anyway down, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah. Bugger.
Bugger.
So did you went to Roto after that too then, hey?
Yeah, so I went, I think it was the following year. So I had a YT 2S, like the 27.5, and it was
Yeah.
like at the end of the year, it was like I remember Corny got on, I think he's 29 a session, and I like rolled around on into the pits. I was like, yeah, this is the go. I was like, I need a 29er, and I ended up getting a commie because I was like, I messaged a bunch of brands and like, no one was like, oh no, we'll give you a cheap bike or anything, because there was no like that whole like Darko and commie thing like wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
If that was around then, they would have been that good because they're that nice, all those dudes. But yeah, so I got a commie, and then yeah, we went to Roto, and then I met MS1. Oh, I'd already met MS1, but like I officially met him and like hung around with him, and like me, him, Steph Fikovic, who used to race. He hasn't been there in years, but his mum and dad was so good.
Yeah.
Because like I was just staying in like this shitty little like motel thing, and then Steph's mum was like basically picking me up and taking me to their house and cooking me food and everything, and it was so good.
How good? Wait, mountain bikers are so helpful, eh?
Oh, so nice.
Because I know when I was overseas, like any opportunity, people would just like put me up.
Yeah, I'm literally like that upset that Steph stopped riding just because I don't get to see his mum and dad now. It was so good. I remember his dad was just so fun. Him, Avo Man, Luke, Steph, and I, and Remy were just on the luge every night after riding.
Yeah.
Because in Roto, you're like, if you go over a bit earlier, it's like not super mayhem. You just get to go on the luge and ride and luge and ride. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. That's it. So then after Roto, injury?
Yeah. So what was?
So how did that happen? Like, was it your leg first? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Roto, and I can't remember how I went. I think. Oh yeah, I got robbed in the slalom qualies. I met a dude named Matt Sterling, who's from America.
Yeah.
And I ended up being like really good mates with him, but he was just like, he'd come from BMX into downhill, and he was just like an absolute freak at slalom and all that stuff. So I'd met him, and I was practicing with him for slalom, and we were like loving it. And met, who else I met? Sam Soriano and her brother, and like we were just like going at riding every day, and I was like that good, feeling that good. And then we did slalom qualies, and my foot hit one of the flags, and a marshal threw his flag at me and DQ'd me. And I like went off my brain, and then they're like, nah, a marshal's ruled it, you've been DQ'd.
I think
blah, blah, blah.
you can hit.
Yeah, you
a
can
thing. You
hit.
just
So
can't go
he was
outside.
like, he was trying to tell me that my front wheel had gone through the two posts, and then my foot hit, and because after I went through it, my foot kicked it that hard that it blew out of the ground, and I think he thought I went straight over it. And
Things
I
like
was
that.
like, I'd qualied like 8th or something too, and he DQ'd me. I was like, dude, there's no way I'm getting DQ'd. I was like, can I just do a rerun? I was like, I was like, surely you could just put me at last seed. Like,
Yeah,
put
you
me
would have
at
been begging,
32nd place. No. They're like, no, you're gone, mate. That was it.
Far out.
Yeah, that is unlucky.
Oh, so pissed off.
Yeah, you would be. Oh, I can't even imagine that. Hey,
So
especially like overseas.
yeah, and then to like cap it off, I was meant to do whip off, and we did downhill pracky, and I completely blew my rear wheel, and I didn't get to do whip off either. So it was like a sick trip, but it was also just so shit.
Yeah, I
Blood.
hate to backtrack, but are you riding on the Banshee team yet in Roto?
Nah, so I was on a commie, and what enduro bike should I have? I think I still had, I didn't, no, yeah, I had an intense tracer, like a 27.5
Yeah.
one, so I was still on that. And then, yeah, what was Roto, came home, yeah, and then we had Natty Champs, and that's when I did my leg, and then it was like all over for like the next year.
So what
How did
happened with
that
your
run
leg?
us through that crash, man? Because that was like
Yeah, I mean,
hectic.
That-
Josh knows about your crash, but I got no idea.
So it was like, well, it was like, what was it? I did it in quali, so like the whole week was so good. I'm like that annoyed we don't get national champs at Bright anymore because it just used to be so good.
That was my first ever national champs on that track.
The track's so good, and then like it's just the town. It's like I'm sure Medina's kind of the same because it's little
Nah,
as
because
well.
Bright's way more established.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's such a nice town to go and stay at. Like I loved it because like mum and dad always wanted to come because they love it. But yeah, I mean, I was going alright, and then yeah, qualies. I made it the whole way down, and like an idiot, I used to ride with earphones in, so I used to listen to music. And the bottom section, there was like this janky man-made rock garden, and it was like an off-camber right after it. And I went through it and pinged, and I popped my front tire, and I didn't notice. And I've gone left, and then over the right on the off-camber, it just went straight out from under me.
Yeah.
And I didn't really do. It wasn't really that bad of a crash, but I don't remember how I saw it, but oh no, someone had a video of it, and I went down, and I just went straight down on my right leg, and there was like a big stump hanging out of the ground, and my right leg just went like shinned it, and I fractured my tib, but I took like a huge chunk out of my calf, like golf ball sized chunk.
Far out.
And so we went to the medic center, and it was the week when like all my mates were dying. So I got to the medic center, Paddy Butler's in one of the beds.
Did you
just
did
out
you
of it.
do the Pat did skateboard? You did your leg at the same race.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
he
realize
was
that.
he was in one of the beds, and I come in, and I'm like, "Oi, Paddy!" and then poor Tyson come in too. I can't remember if Tyson got hurt or he was just in there with us,
Yeah.
or our mate Darren got hurt. I don't remember, but all three of us were in there, and it was like kind of this big joke at the time because it was like, "Oh, yeah, I've just hurt my leg, whatever." And no offense to the Bright Medical Center, but they are not good. They
Yeah.
are not
What
good at
happened?
they
Like,
do. So I had this big hole, and my mum's like, "Oh, you got to stitch it, surely." They're like, "Oh no, there's not enough skin there to stitch it." So they just stesi stripped and like pulled it together.
that's what they did with my shin.
That's
at
what they did
Threadbow.
with my wrist. They just stesi because I
So it
cut
looks like
my
we've all
wrist
had a bad
open,
experience.
and they just like they stesi stripped it together. It's the
So
worst.
I was like watching the lady do it, and I was like, "Dude, there's no way you're pulling that together." And she pulls it together, and you can like see like a 5 mil strip down the middle of the hole.
Oh, yeah, that's nasty.
So she like stesi stripped it, cotton balled it, wrapped it, did all this shit, and then I was like, "Oh, so I'm ready to ride tomorrow, eh?" And she's like, "Oh, yes and no." And I was like, "Oh, I'm just racing the mountain bike national champs." And I think she thought it was like cross country or whatever, like everyone does. She's like, "Oh, you should be all right. Like it should be okay." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, cool." And it got to like, I think I did one pracky run, and it was kind of okay.
So you did a pracky run with a broken tib and a golf ball
Well,
size.
it was like a fractured tib, so it was like it was sore and it wasn't. It only really hurt like on a G out if I dropped my heel
Yeah.
for some reason. So it was okay. And then I was like, I'm gonna do one pracky run, and then I'll just do my race run because I've been here. Why not? Did my pracky run, and it was kind of not horrible. Did my race run, and I think I blew a turn anyway. I just had a shit rum. And I got to the bottom and I was like, fuck, my leg feels weird, eh? And then just pulled my pants up, my whole white socks just red.
Oh,
So it's just
mate.
blood coming out of it everywhere. And we leave and mum's like, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's just blood. Like, it'll stop bleeding. I'll elevate it in the car. And we got like an hour of the way home, and out of nowhere, it literally felt like my leg was on fire. Like, I could feel
Adrenaline's gone.
yeah, adrenaline's gone, everything's worn off. I can feel every hair on my leg. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like screaming profusely in the car. My mum is an absolute stress head, so she was freaking out.
Every mum like mum is. My mum doesn't even come to races because she just like stresses.
Mum's freaking out, and she's like, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?" I was like, "We gotta go to a hospital," and she's like, "Oh, well, we'll have to go to Canberra," and I was like, dude, I'm not going to make it to Canberra. So we like backtracked to, what is it? Maybe with Albury. I think
So
it was Albury.
where were you like
So
when
we,
this was happening?
yeah, so we left Bright, and I think it was like an hour in the car on the way home. So we just gone, you get back to like the main road and you go past Albury with Donga, and then you're like going back home.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think we'd gone like, I don't even know, like half an hour past Albury. So we went back in just full agony. Like, I've never felt anything like it in my life. I didn't even know what it was. And we get there, and I'm sitting in the car, and mum's just knocking on the window, waiting for someone to come out. No one's coming out. No one's coming out. I get up. I'm like dragging my leg, and I just thunder punch the glass, waiting for someone to come out. This little old lady toddles out. She's like, "Excuse me, what's wrong?" And I'm just screaming through the door, trying to get someone. And I think she just looked at me and she was like, "Oh, okay, we'll take it."
Yeah, yeah. Like, oh, he's
Yeah.
real messed up.
Real messed up. And like, the problem was I was still in my riding pants because like I didn't want to take them off because they were blood soaked, and like I didn't want to just put blood everywhere. It sounds stupid, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So we finally got in there. They cut my pants off, and I just looked down, and my right leg is literally twice the size of my left. Like,
Yeah.
not even exaggeration.
Far out.
And the ladies are like, "Oh my god!" They're like, "You've got compartment syndrome in your leg." And I was like, "I don't know what that is. Can you explain it to me?"
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what that is
I
either.
had no clue. I was like, "Does that mean I'm gonna die?" They're like, "No, you're not gonna die." They're like, "Your leg's probably gonna fall off." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's probably not good." So it's like compartment syndrome is, I think, basically when your body part swells that much that it squishes all your nerves, muscles, everything.
Far
So wasn't cool at all.
Oh, that's so hectic.
So bad. And then we got in there.
How do they get rid of that? Like, they just have to wait.
They just have to cut it up. That's what that scar is. That was all compartment syndrome as well.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that.
So they got to cut it. So they took the bandage off, and we looked down, and there's a literal blood clot the size of a golf ball, like hanging out of my leg.
You have photos, all they say. We can insert clips.
So bad.
You're going to edit some after.
I nearly puked. I was like, that's so uncool. It looked like in the Alien movie when it comes out of its chest.
That is
It's coming out
crazy.
of my leg.
Yeah, we'll show photos this
Oh.
afterwards.
And then all I remember was they like sedated me and took me to, I don't actually know. I don't remember what hospital. Maybe they took me to Albury Hospital. I went to a medical center or something.
Yeah.
And all I remember is the dude in the ambo looked like Ryan Nyquist. That's all I could remember. It's all I could remember. Do you know who Ryan Nyquist is?
No, but it's
I was off my head, and I was like, dude, there's no way it's not Ryan Nyquist.
like on Green Whistle?
Yeah,
or?
I thought it was Nyquist for sure.
I'm looking this guy out.
It's all I remember. It's
How do you
almost
spell his last name?
Nyquist.
Yeah, yeah.
Every year my snap memory comes up, and I took a photo of him, and it's like, dude, Ryan Nyquist is my nurse. And I look at the memory now, and it looks nothing like Ryan Nyquist. Like, not even close to him.
Oh, dude. That's... Oh... Yeah, we'll have to compare
BMX
photos.
rider.
We'll have to compare photos.
I'll get the snap memory up.
Oh, so did you just get your leg cut open after that? Or was that...
So I went there, and what was it? All the nurses like didn't know what to do, And my mum's doing her usual, like, wanting to kill someone, going off a brain.
Yeah, my mum does
And
that too.
And then finally a doctor comes in and he looks at me, looks at all the nurses, and he's like, what the fuck? Why is he here? What's he doing?
Yeah.
So I went straight into op. And yeah, he made like, I don't even know how long of a cut. You can't really see it. It's like there to there.
Yeah.
So see how all my muscle and everything goes all weird?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much that hole there.
Far
So
out.
yeah, they just cut you open and
dude.
let it all out.
That's gnarly.
And it was like, it was full on, but as soon as I woke up, it was like fine. I was like, no pain at all.
Because it just got rid of all like the
Yeah,
swelling.
it screwed everything. And then, so I thought it was all over. And I go home, and I'm probably at home for like 3 days.
Mm.
And then I just start feeling groggy as, like, starting to feel real painful again. And I ended up getting cellulitis.
What's
So
that?
it's like a skin disease.
Right.
That does what?
So like when you get a cut or a wound and it's not cleaned properly, you know how it goes infected.
Yeah,
yeah.
It goes all mangy and shit. It's like that.
Oh,
So my
Right.
whole leg was like red and like really hot and infected.
Yeah. Okay. Copy.
So we go into Wollongong Hospital. I'm in there for like fuck, how long? Probably like 2 weeks. I was in there just on a drip and everything.
in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's like right as they like wanted to pardon me and let me leave, the doctor who'd been looking after me, I was like, oh, like I've heard it was from Moya. I was like, I've heard a lot about bone infection. I was like, should you do another surgery and like get it all perfect? Because I was like, I really don't want that, eh?
Yeah.
And he's like, and he pretty much just like looked at me like I was an idiot, like trying to be the doctor. And he's like, yeah, nah, mate. He's like, we've scanned it. We don't do unneeded surgeries. It's a waste of money and our time. And I was like, yeah, cheers,
You
mate.
sound like a bit of a prick.
Yeah, I
Not
was
gonna
like, cheers,
lie.
mate. Cool. In his defense, they're under stress. I'm not going to bat him, but
Yeah.
yeah, I will in like 2 minutes. But then I went home. I was home for a week, and like I was having no like physical pain, so I was fine.
Yeah.
And then who was it? Duke and Wriggles were going to Canberra, going to Stromlo for like a weekend, and I was like, yeah, I haven't ridden. I was like, for sure, I'm coming. I'll ride. We went down, rode, everything was sweet. I actually met Job Gentle.
Really?
When he was like proper, like 13-year-old, had just started riding.
Mm.
And he's ended up like a really good rider, which is heaps sick. And yeah, so we're like coming home. And what was it? I think I'd been home from Stromy. And then I gone to work. And on like the Wednesday, I collapsed at work. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And what it was I had the bone infection in my leg.
Oh, so you outsmarted a doctor.
Yeah, I outsmarted the doctor. And then, yeah, pretty much. So we go, what was it? Yeah, pretty much. I didn't know that's what it was. And I thought I was just freaking out. And Dad's like, dude, take the week off. Go, like, sit at home. Just chill out. And he did, like, the usual, yeah, mate, probably shouldn't have been on your bike yet. I told you not to go on your bike. And I was like, yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks for making me feel better.
Yeah. Chill, bro. Yeah.
And I went home, and I was just on a mattress on the floor. And I mean, it was like the second night I woke up, and it was like the compartment syndrome pain again, but it was like a bit different. And yeah, I woke up I couldn't move my leg, I couldn't do anything, and I'd had the bone infection.
Yeah.
So I went back in from an ambo come and got me because I literally couldn't move. Went back in, and then what was it? I think I went back in, and they did, like, straight away, they did another surgery on it, and I think they drilled. Oh, and this was probably like 3 or 4 weeks before I was going to go back to WIS,
Yeah.
because I was going to go for like a prolonged period of time. I was going to go like right as summer started. I was meant to be going with Jaden Wilson and like Quinlan and a bunch of boys.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got back in there, and they didn't really tell me what was going on. And I just knew I was going in for a surgery.
Mm.
And I've gone in, I've woken up, and like, they come and talk to me. And he was like, oh, what did you just do? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, so we've had to make 4 holes in your tibia, 4 in your fibula at like what was it? I think it was like a 10 mil diameter drill hole in each of them.
That's pretty big.
It's pretty big.
That's
So
like not a
it's
little
pretty much
hole.
like having 4 breaks in each bone,
Yeah.
like proper ones. And I woke up to that, and I
That
was
just
like,
sounds excruciating.
oh, it was so uncool. And then I woke up, and that was when I had that thing I showed you, the blood machine thing. So
Yeah.
it draws all the blood out, and it goes into like a freeze machine thing. So
Yeah.
it keeps, like, it's trying to get the bad blood out. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, so like, how long till I can leave or whatnot? And he's like, oh well, we don't know that you're keeping your leg yet or whatnot. Yeah. And it took,
Far
yeah,
out.
it took like,
How did you process that, man?
I just genuinely didn't. It took like, I think it took him like 2 weeks to give me a proper confirmation.
Well, like, what was your thought process going
Oh, I
through?
thought my life was over, I was so pissed. And the first thing that came to my mind was I was just pissed I wasn't going to Whistler. I
Yeah.
didn't even think about losing my leg.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took him like 2 weeks, and like the whole time I'm in there, it was just hell. Because like it was pretty much, if I was laying on the bed and I was just on like an endone drip, I was on Plexia, I was on everything, because it's like the bone infection pain is like insane.
Yeah, I can
Literally
imagine.
insane. I like don't wish anyone to go through it at all. It was fucked. And I was just tripping off my head constantly, and it was pretty bad. And then
So what is it like? What do you mean tripping? Like you're just feeling light and floaty, or like
it's
full
no,
like mushroom
full tripping.
trips?
I don't think, not everyone does it, but it's hereditary. My dad has had some pretty gnarly injuries, and he can't have any opiates or opioids or whatever they're called.
Yeah, yeah.
So as soon as he has endone or anything, he flips his shit.
Like
proper.
angry, or what do you mean?
No, like doesn't know where he is, doesn't know what
tripping
the
out.
fuck's going on. Like
Yeah, okay.
proper.
And so you had a similar
Yeah,
thing.
I was just, oh, it was horrible. But during the day, it was kind of okay. But I think the worst part was I couldn't get up. Like I think probably like the first week, I had to do the rollover, piss in the bucket type thing like everyone does. And like, as soon as I put my leg off the bed, you could like feel the blood running from the top down for your leg. Like you could literally feel every bit.
That's crazy.
It's insane. Like you put your leg off, the first time I did it, I felt like someone poured water down my leg, and I was like, oh, that's a weird feeling. And then out of nowhere, it just hurts. Like just thumps and feels like there's bugs under your skin. It's like so shit. And I think it took me like 2 weeks to be able to get up, get to the toilet, do a wee, get back down before it started to hurt. And like,
Dude.
I'm pretty good with pain. Like it doesn't really, I'm pretty good with it. And this was like
Next
proper
level.
in tears, like screaming pain. It was
Far out.
Oh, dude, that's heavy.
Well,
That
like,
is-
was your mental process and thinking about losing your leg,
just
like, what? Tell me about it.
I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, it's weird. It's pretty much like I'm not the person I was when I first went in there, when I left. Like it was just,
What changed?
oh, I don't even know. Cause like I haven't said it yet, but I think I was in there for like 2.5 months. I didn't leave the hospital for like 2.5 months.
Far. That's a lot of time.
It's a lot.
Genuinely could
It's
send someone crazy.
A lot of time. And it was like just endone stripping. So pretty much the first week.
So for 2.5 months, you're
You're-
just on opioids the whole time.
So the first like week or two, it wasn't as bad because I think I was in so much pain that they weren't affecting me as much, if that makes sense. Like
So they're just
mine.
numbing you.
Dude.
Yeah. So I was just like in bed for like 2 weeks. But then once I started being able to get up and go to the toilet and stuff, the pain wasn't as insane, but they were still giving me the exact same dose, and I was on the endone drip and all this. And it was pretty much like, probably like from 3 weeks in till like the 2 months, 2.5 months at the end, it was like I'd have endone in the morning, trip till like lunch, have something to eat. I'd go on my laptop till like 7 or 8 o'clock, and then I'd start to get sleepy. And I think my dad does the same thing, but when I'm on the opiates or opioids, whenever I fall asleep, I'll fall asleep and I'll wake up, and it had been like 15 minutes, but I dreamt for like a week.
What were you? Do
Yeah,
you
what were
remember
you
any of your
dreaming?
dreams?
Like literally just not like normal life, like nothing. Like because I was so, I think it was that much trauma that when I slept, all I could think about was going overseas and going to Whistler, and because I was meant to go do like the full Euro trip and go to Whistler.
You wanted some normality in your life, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and I was like, I think I was just dreaming about it because like I vividly still remember going to Whistler that year, racing, doing crankworks, after parties, everything, and I never went.
That is
And I can
insane.
remember
So you lived
everything.
like an alternative
Yeah,
life in your own head.
it was literally just so draining.
And this is every night for
Yeah, so like
better part
Okay,
of 2 months.
can you? Here's a question: can you like distinguish what happened and what didn't happen now?
barely. Like I'm like good at it now. I genuinely know that nothing happened, but
At first, you were like
dude,
that
for
would have been
like
the sickest trip ever.
oh for like that whole time I was in there, I had no clue. I distinctly remember at one point we were racing a New South Wales round at Del Rio, which we weren't there. I remember being there, and I stayed in the same cabin I'd stayed in the year before, and I fell asleep. And when I went to bed, I woke up and I thought I was dreaming. I was in the hospital.
That is
Oh, it's
crazy.
so weird. And then I woke up, I was in the hospital, and 15 minutes later, I went back to sleep, and I woke up at Del Rio, and then I raced that next day.
Far out.
Oh, dude, so you can't even tell if you're in hospital or racing.
And the only reason I know that, like, I can distinctly remember that it's not real is because I was on the same bike, we raced the same track, and I stayed in the same place that I did the previous year.
Yeah, so
So
it's like a memory.
It's just memory. But yeah, it was. Oh, dude, it was like I got to a point where it was like probably a month where I was only sleeping for an hour at a time, because some nights it was alright, but then some nights it'd be nightmares, and it was just
Did you feel like you were going crazy?
oh, dude, it's so hard to even like put into words now, but yeah, pretty much.
How does it affect you now?
Oh, I know for a fact that like the first like 2 years of me being out, I was just an ass.
Yeah.
Like I was like not myself. I just had no emotion, no nothing. I was so like just ready to kill someone. I was like so. It's weird. Like I had no emotion, but super like plateaued or so aggravated and angry at everything. That was like it.
Yeah, wow. What were the nightmares like?
Oh, because like I'd always struggled with like night terrors since I was a kid. I think my dad, it's all hereditary. I think my dad does as well, because my dad is like a super like rigid, hard dude that you would like not know that he's been through hard times, but you know he has. And the way he holds himself is so like
Stoic.
yeah, like you just wouldn't know. But I know that now that I'm older, I've seen him like off his head on painkillers or when he's drinking or anything, and I like see bits of him that I have, and I like understand now. So like
That's interesting you say that, man. That's
yeah,
quite a good observation.
because when I was a like teenager to like kid, I always had night terrors and everything, and I always had problems, and I always like thought I was like there was something wrong with me or whatnot. But then like as I'm older and like stuff unravels and I'm like more confident to speak to my dad and my parents about it, like I'll speak about it and like dad will like resonate with it, and I'm like, oh, all right, I understand where it like comes from now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like I'd always had night terrors, and then in there when it was like a bad night, it was like, dude, it was like if I slept for the hour, I dreamt for like probably like a few days at a time. So I like had multiple dreams. Like I've been to like so many of my family's funerals and my friends' funerals and stuff.
That haven't
like
died.
It never happened.
Far out.
It was just like I can distinctly remember going to my dad's funeral. I remember like where the funeral was, but straight away it took me a few days and I realized that it like wasn't real, because the funeral was where a relative's funeral was, and it was all the same, like everyone looked the same, so it was like
It's almost
it was
cracked memory kind of
yeah,
thing.
it's so trippy. And it's like so many nightmares where it's like you see everyone in your life, but you're not you. So it's like you're not actually in their life, but you can see their life. It's weird. Like, I remember I had one where I kept skipping through time and seeing my dad. Because I have a really healthy relationship with my mum, but dads are different. Like, it's like
Yeah.
with my dad, he's like my older brother a bit. And like, I remember one of them was like, I went through time and I saw different points in my dad's life where he'd had troubles, where he'd like spoken to me a little bit about them, and they were just in the back of my head, and like I remember it because like his little brother passed away I don't know what it was, like 6 months before I was born. So mum was pregnant and his little brother passed away, and I know now that I'm a lot like his little brother, so it's like why he's so like big brotherish with me.
Right.
But yeah, I just remember skipping through points in time and seeing him at different points in time, and like I couldn't interact with him or help him, but I just saw him suffering, and it was like, dude, it was just like so hard. It just
I can't even
felt
fathom that,
so
man.
weird.
That's crazy. The anger that you talked about that you had after the few months in hospital, anger is known as one of the most destructive emotions. How did you kind of come back from being so angry and aggressive?
Oh, I don't even know, eh? Like I know I'm good. Like I'm good now, but like I remember like the Roto trip right before. I remember myself before that, and I'm like, I'm not like that anymore. Like I'll never be that dude. Like when I like the first like probably like 2 years out of it, maybe like 6 months before I met my girlfriend now, I was just like it wasn't like anger, but I was never happy. I remember getting new bikes, and it was like I was looking forward to it for weeks.
Mm,
And then I remember like the first bike I got when I got back out, I was just like,
cool.
sweet, yeah, cool. It was like, and it took me a while to really figure out that I was being like not cool.
Mm,
So I got a lot of respect for my mum and dad for like not just hating me for being a terrible person.
yeah.
Well, not a terrible person, but just not fun. Like not like what I was. So,
Did you like talk to people like your parents or a therapist or anything about any of that?
nah, so I spoke to mum a little bit, but like my mum is that pure hearted that it didn't matter to her. Like she couldn't care. She was like, you could be the worst person on earth and I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
And like every now and again I'd have like a proper conversation with dad, and it would help quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because like I understand therapy's really good, but it was like who would I be able to actually talk to?
It
About
works
what
for
I
some,
went
works
through?
for others, you know.
Yeah, and it's like I understand, like there's genuinely really good like therapy for people, but it was like if I'd go to a therapist and talk about what I went through, it was like how are they even gonna
Yeah.
resonate with me at all?
Yeah.
They're like I thought it'd just be a waste of time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's
But
understandable.
like once I like spoke to dad quite a bit, it was really good. Like talking to my dad. So because he had like he had a proper crash racing moto, and what did he do? He broke like 8 ribs or 10 ribs or something,
Oh, that's a
and like
that's a good set.
properly tripped out. Like was on the floor, like didn't know where he was, type shit. So it's like we've both kind of been through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. What was it like coming out of hospital and like getting off the opioids?
Oh, dude, it was. I think what was it? So I came out and I'm trying to like recount time. I think.
Give me one sec.
Oh, cheers, man. I think I came out came out of hospital, not came out. I came out of hospital in like, I think kind of like June or July or something, and I was like, had not dropped my dosage or anything till I went to Kai Hearn's birthday, and we played paintball, and Kai Hoare was there and a bunch of others, and then I ended up getting a message from Kai about riding for him on the Banshee team.
Yeah.
And it was when he messaged me, I was like, all right, I have to be good here. Like I've got to get off him, all this shit. But it was like, I started riding, but it was like, it was so hard to ride and not be on them, if that makes sense. Like
Why?
What? Yeah. What do you mean? Right and not.
well,
on the-
I thought it was really weird, but I read so much about it, and it's like very linked to like the opioids are like very linked to like heroin withdrawals.
Mm.
So I was trying to get off them, and the other thing was I didn't know how to get off them.
Yeah.
So I was just like barely taking any or whatnot, and I'd go ride, and I couldn't see straight, I couldn't do anything, like I just felt wrong.
Yeah.
So I kind of kept taking them, and we went to Cannibal, and I started riding for Banshee, and it was cool. It was like, oh, sick, someone, and it was really cool because it was like finally someone wanted me to ride for him, and it was like right off the back of not riding for ages. So
Yeah.
it was
Like that belief in you is like.
yeah, like I didn't know if I'd bother riding it or not. So I went back to there and rode, and I think it was probably like 3 months in. Unfortunately, I was still on them, and I was having real hard times, and a really close friend of mine passed away. And when she passed away, it kind of just got rid of all the progress I'd made. Like I went to her funeral. I didn't cry. I couldn't cry. I just had no emotion like that. And unfortunately, I kept arguing with Kai, which I feel really bad about. Like he was like, in the moment, I thought he was being a dick, but looking back on it, he was just expecting me to be much more of an adult than I was being.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we had a lot of arguments and whatnot. And I remember and then COVID hit, and I pretty much, I went to Roto riding for Banshee, and I did shit in downhill. I did really, really good in slalom. Like I beat, so you do your quali runs and everything, and then you got to go to the round of 32. And I think I had a shit quali run because I was on a bike I'd never ridden, and I qualied like 30th, and then I had to race Slavic in qualies, and the first round I beat him.
Yeah.
And this is like Tom Slavic. So I was like, oh my God.
He's a gangster, by the way. Like proper
literally
gangster.
like dual slalom god, four cross god. And then, yeah. And then he's like probably like the godfather of four cross and dual slalom, which is what we were racing. And then he ended up getting me, which was like, whatever. I was like,
Yeah.
that's sick. I don't even care.
But it's like you get beaten by someone with like that caliber. It's like, oh, that's not
It's,
so
it's
bad.
literally, it'd be like Josh going to a World Cup.
And like just getting pipped by Bruni.
Yeah, pretty much. It'd be like Josh going to a World Cup and qualifying like third or something. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
it's
my
like
God.
That's nice.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then I came back. So I was still on painkillers and everything. And I came back, and I think we did champs, and I don't remember what happened because I think I hurt my thumb in Roto when I crashed in downhill. So I had a real shit run at champs and whatnot. And I was like real bummed about it. And it was right when COVID hit. So we like didn't ride for like ages. And I remember I was like just having lots of arguments with Kai, and it like got to a point where I just was over riding the mountain bike, and I just started riding my moto again. And I like started trying to get off him, and I was back on him, and I was getting off him, and I was back on him, I was getting off him. And I was just like, I was probably just a real dick at the time. And I ended up I was meant to do 2 years with him, but it was like, he was like, oh, we'll do 1 year and see how you go. And we got to the end of the year, and I like wasn't posting mountain bikes. I was only riding moto. And like, we were on like a contract. Like we were meant to do a certain amount of posts and amount of whatnot. I ended up not riding for him. And then I remember it pissed me off that much that I was like, I'm over being a dick. I was like, I'm getting off him. And I remember, I think my mum and dad went to Bali, and I think my sister went too. And I remember being in my room for 2 or 3 days, and I like cold turkeyed them, and I was puking, and I was like passing out, and I was in the shower with it on full hot, like under the shower. You couldn't feel it, like nothing. Like it was
Full heroin withdrawal, eh?
proper full on. And I thought I was just being a proper weirdo about it. And then I ended up watching a movie called Trainspotting, and it's about heroin addicts. And he goes through it, and he has the withdrawal symptoms and everything. And I was like, that's how I feel.
You get that, yeah.
And then I like read a bunch about it, and I was like, oh my God, this is literal heroin withdrawals.
So how long did like the withdrawals last?
And yeah.
Like that, like I think it's not as gnarly for a little bit, and then it's super gnarly, and then you kind of just feel really groggy for like a day or day and a half, and then it's kind of
Yeah.
you're good.
It's like a week. Whoa.
Oh yeah, it's probably about a week until you actually feel normal again. But then the problem was I got off them, and then I like didn't feel normal. I felt so odd. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's so hard to like put into words how you feel.
Do you reckon that getting off the opioids is one of the hardest things you've?
Oh, dude, I read a bunch about it. I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently the problem with the heroin is when people try and get off it, they wean themselves off it, and it starts to go, and then if they go back to it, and they like go back to it at their normal pace because their bodies like diff it off it a little bit, and then they take their normal amount, that's when they overdose.
Right.
So I'd read that like
That's
right before I
interesting.
did it, and that was like what helped me get off it, because I was like, I
Scared.
knew it wasn't going to kill me, but it was like, I know that's the bad part, so I was like, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing
Out of
it.
fear, kind of thing.
Yeah, literal fear, but yeah, got off them, which is good.
Were you scared to go back on them when you broke your arm?
Oh, terrified, literally terrified. Like, did not. I was in the hospital, and yeah, when I did my arm, I was in the hospital, and they were like trying to give me them, and I was like fucking throwing them away, telling them to piss off. I was like, I'm not taking them, and I've like got metal rods hanging out of my arm. They're like, you need to take them, and so
What happened to your arm? I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like dived
Okay.
into
Yeah,
it.
I don't know what happened
On
to your arm.
topic of.
So yeah, what was it? It was like I stopped riding for Banshee, and then what happened next? So it was like, oh, we had all the COVID and everything like that, and then I ended up riding again. I was getting a Canyon downhill bike and an enduro bike off Kai Ahern,
Yeah.
because I was really good mates with Kai, and it was like, because he was on the factory team, he had like his bikes from at home, and then they just have to get rid of them for like barely any money. So I was like, yeah, dude, I'll buy them. And I got them, and I've been riding and everything. And then I ended up crashing and just absolutely weeding my arm.
Yeah, right.
Was the crash like gnarly?
No, just a shit crash. It was literally at like the pump track at Possums. It was like the worst crash. It was like, there's like a little double and a roller and another double. And I went over the double, the roller, and went over the next double. And I was just doing like a stupid little speed manual over the first one. And then over the last one, I was nose bonking over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the front brake cable had come out of the little clamp on the fork. And when I'd done the nose bonk, I think my cable went into my tire, or it grabbed it. And I just went, Foom,
Yeah.
and just,
Far
I
out.
literally just landed straight on my, and like, there was a jump right after it. And I just landed, put my hand out, and it was like wet clay. I put my hand out, and I think it popped my elbow back, and then my elbow hit it, and then my helmet hit my elbow.
Or so your elbow was dislocated and then you just broke
Yeah,
it
and I
as
just
well.
shattered everything.
Oh my
Far
gosh.
So yeah.
Yeah,
that
so
was-
then you were
So
scared of getting back on the opioids.
Oh yeah, like it
you
was.
amboed the hospital, but
Yeah, so mate Corin came down and helped me, because I thought I just popped my elbow out, and it was like, oh, whatever, it's not that big a deal. Like I saw Bruni do it in a video. I was like, he was okay. And then I tried to get up and leave, nearly fell over. I tried to get up again, nearly fell over. I was like, oh fuck, I might be a bit hurt here, eh? So
I had
Amber,
the same thing in Morzine.
Yeah.
Like where your body goes into shock.
yeah, it was so weird.
It's wild, eh? Was it like when you'd try to stand up, did you like lose all hearing as well as sight?
No, it was kind of just like, I was like kind of fainting. So you like stand up, and it feels like gravity gets really, really heavy, and your
Yeah.
eyes just like roll in the back of your head, and you feel like you're gonna fall over, and that's kind of it.
Oh, see, mine was slightly different because I like went over the bars and like hit my tailbone and like put a huge gouge out of my tailbone.
Is that when you cut your butthole open?
Yeah. That was shout out to George Brannigan for helping me out. But like I would sit down. I'd sit down.
so bad. Pause.
I'd sit down.
George help you cut
Yeah.
the hole out.
Yeah. Oh, there was a few other people. I think Seth Sherlock was there and a few other people. But I would sit down and be like, oh, this really hurts. Like, wasn't that bad. And I'd stand up and be like, you know, in the movies when it's like the echoey sort of
Yeah.
thing, it was just like that.
Like proper
Couldn't,
tunnel vision.
yeah,
You're just
couldn't
gone.
hear that and just got like super dizzy. And like, I didn't feel like my eyes would roll back in my head, but they would like, just would go real blurry. And then
Yeah.
I'd sit back down and I'd be sweet. It was real weird. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't stand. Yeah, so I get what you feel like with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't absolutely shatter my elbow, but I feel you, dog.
Oh. Yeah, and then so I went in the ambo, and when we rang the ambo, I was whoever I was with. I think it was Kyron, or maybe I think my dad came down, and Dad rang them, and I don't know if Dad rang. Someone rang him and said that I dislocated my elbow. So obviously the ambo wasn't real stressed about getting there.
Yeah,
Sat
yeah.
there for 40 minutes before they got there.
Far out.
They get there and the dude comes down and looks at it and he goes, "Holy shit!" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's not good."
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
get in
That's
the ambo, and I finally like the shock was coming down. I was like, "Oh my god, this is properly hurting." And shout out to the ambo dude; he was really good. He showed me how to block the air vent on the green whistle, so you just get full green whistle and not like the half. He was so helpful because I was there and I was like, "Dude, this is doing nothing, eh?" And he's like, "I'll put your finger there," and it was just like straight in. I was like, "Oh, that's the go."
Oh, that's
That's
hectic.
gnarly.
Yeah.
So you were just cooked on the way to the
Oh,
hospital.
dude, I ate like 3 of them on the way to the hospital. I was just going through them.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
that's gnarly. That's like proper heavy.
Yeah. So this was like, so this happened like the day after Christmas 2020. And I think, so I done my leg in like, when did I do my leg? I think I did my leg in 2019. And it was like, yeah, so I'd done the full year and kind of didn't really get to ride too much, whatnot. And then when I started riding again and I got on the Kenyans, I was like real stoked. I was ready to go to Rotorua again and everything. Because it's like you have the injury and everything, and I wasn't really going to like worry about it again. And everyone's like, "Oh, dude, it's not worth the risk. Like, what are you bothering for, whatnot?" And it's like, well, I've done well. I know I can do well again. And then like to reiterate it, I go ride, like one of my best mates is Josh Arcus. So I'd go ride with him, and like Arcus is like one of the best Australian riders now by far. And I go ride with him and we do a section and it'd be like the same pace the whole way down. And it's like, it's hard to then not want to race if you can ride at the same pace. Like we weren't riding gnarly downhill, but like it was still like, you still got to go the same pace. So yeah, I was like real pumped to go back to Roto and everything. And I did my arm and then pretty much got to hospital. They're like,
The fear of injury wasn't really in your head at all.
no, like, well, the thing with my leg was I didn't actually have a big injury. Like I never really, I'd had lots of like injuries, but I never had a big injury. So it was like this dude's like bulldog that come back from a broken neck, and it's like that's insane. But
Yeah.
it's like I went through a pretty gnarly experience, but it was like, yeah, but it wasn't really like a mountain bike crash. It was just like a crash. Like I could have done it doing anything. It was like just really unlucky, really.
Yeah.
So I didn't like have that fear. And then
It still
after-
was big though. Like
Oh,
it made you broke your tibia and then like everything snowballed. Like it was
yeah,
still
it was
huge.
bad. Like the fractured tib was nothing though. It was like 3 or 4 weeks and I would have been fine. Like that's not that big a deal. But yeah, I didn't really have the fear at all. And like when I raced moto, I always did for some reason. And then when I went to mountain bike, it was like, because I was all on my own, I didn't have the fear. When like moto, you're like, anything can happen. It's like someone can take you out, someone can land on you, someone can be on the ground in front of you. Like you don't know.
Yeah.
With mountain bike, it's like, I was really good at the fact when I get into a race, I was like, yeah, I know I can win this. I'm not going to crash because I'm not going to let myself crash. And then I just wasn't really worried about it.
So coming back from the injury, right? Josh talked about fear of injury, and that's obviously not really there for you. But was the fear of coming back to racing there for you?
Yeah, I had a lot of fear that I was going to come back and just get absolutely hosed, and just knew that I'd been out for that long that everyone says that however long you're out for, it takes twice that time to get back to where you were.
Wow.
And then everyone else gets further away from where you already were. So it's like,
Yeah.
That's
you just
crazy.
want to get back as quick as possible. So I was really worried I was going to get my doors blown off. And then I came back and I like rode with the boys and it was like nothing had changed. So I was like, it really didn't stress me out too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, then when I did my arm, that got me. Like that gets me now. It's like, it's insane.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, just because the injury was worse, or
yeah, dude, it was like the leg, like the whole time in hospital, it was like don't get me wrong, it was traumatic, but it wasn't like it was like I referred to Bulldog breaking his neck, like it wasn't like that. Like it was literally just I've got unlucky here. It's not gonna worry me too much.
yeah,
And then with the arm, it was like I did it. We got to hospital. They didn't even X-ray or anything. They just went straight to a surgery, and he relocated all my bones so my humerus was broken, my radius and ulnar were broken. My humerus was going out the back, and then my ulnar was going up, and my radius was going down.
So you broke your whole elbow.
Yeah, literally.
Like every single bone that's in your elbow
like,
is broken.
Just like snap across there, that comes off, and then that shattered too.
Oh my.
like
Yeah, it was.
he's just got a
crazy.
mushed up elbow,
It
bro.
was like 27 breaks in like just that point.
27.
Yeah, it's fun. It was. I think it was. It was like 13 in my elbow, and then it was like like when I say breaks, they count fractures
As a
and whatnot.
break. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like it's just pretty much.
It's still a
shattered.
lot.
It's just shattered, and it was like I remember being off my head, and he's like, "Oh mate, we're gonna relocate your bone, blah blah blah," and I was like, "Oh yeah, cool." And then he's like, "If we can't, I have to let you know. If we can't, and it's unattainable, he's like, there's a risk of you losing your arm or your elbow being fused." And I was like, dude, I've already gone through this with my leg. I was like, don't
Yeah.
do this to me as well. So I've gone into surgery, like about to go to sleep, not knowing if I'm going to like wake up with my arm fused or my arm just gone. Because he was talking about the nerves and the veins and blood and everything. And he's like, dude, if it's that bad in there, we can't do anything. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not good.
Yeah.
But luckily, they were really good. So I woke up. They'd put everything kind of back where it could sit, and they just put a half cast around it. And I woke up, and they're like, "All right." They're
Were you
like,
relieved that your arm was there?
yeah. I woke up and I was like, "Oh my god, it's still there," but I couldn't move it or anything. So I had to wait for someone to come back and tell me if they were gonna fuse it or what.
Or what? Was that just stress? Like, what is that like waiting for
Yeah,
that?
just full stress again. Because I was like, fuck, I got lucky with my leg. And I was like, the thing with my leg was, once they let me know that I was like keeping it and whatnot, I was like, it's not a physical injury. It's just like nerves and muscles and everything, which is not good, but
That's still a physical injury.
yeah, but yeah, it's not. It was like not like this one. So I was like stressing about that, and then he's like, "All right, so we got someone here who can do a surgery. They're not a specialist in the field. They're like, we have one guy. There's one guy in Wollongong that can do something like this. He's away. Blah blah blah."
Did
They're
that
like,
scare you? Like, you didn't have the specialist?
and they're like, there's another guy in Queensland. We can fly you to Queensland. And I was like, to be honest, I was like, how long until you can get this bloke from Wollongong? They're like, oh, he can get in here the next day's afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure, that's all right. We can wait. It's not that big a deal. So I went to my room at like in the afternoon at some point or night time. I go into bed and I've woken up at like 4 a.m. in proper agony, and I was trying to figure out what was going on because I couldn't move my arm or do anything, and they'd had the half cast sitting on it and it had wrapped up, and I was getting compartment syndrome in my arm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I've woken up, I've got the nurse, I'm like, I've got compartment syndrome, and she's like, oh, don't be silly, blah, blah, blah. I was like, lady, I've had it. I know exactly what it is. She's like, oh, we'll just have to wait for the doctor in the morning. Just here's some more painkillers. And I'm sitting there like trying to bend the half cast to release pressure. So I ended up messaging my mate Josh Jansen. His dad's a surgeon who worked on my hand at one point. And I was like, dude, I was like, I need you to pick up your phone. He picked up his phone. I was like, I need your dad's phone number. This is like 4 or 5 in the morning. He gave me his dad's phone and I ring him and I'm like, Stuart, I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, do you know, what was his name? I think it was Philip Markham, the surgeon. He's like, yeah, he's a mate of mine. I was like, I need you to get him in here. And I told him the story, whatnot. Old man comes through the door at like 7 a.m.,
Mate.
looks at my arm, and he's like, what the fuck's going on? He's like, what are you guys doing? I was like, I've tried to tell this nurse it's compartment syndrome. She's not listening to me, blah, blah, blah. So he went off his brain at them.
So that's like a full blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like full blade. Like if I didn't know Josh and know his dad, I probably would have been fucked.
So if that didn't happen, your arm's gone pretty
Oh,
much.
100%. Like, if they were already worried about it before, you throw compartment syndrome on it, no. Like, everything was going to be fucked.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, like, he come in, and he comes in and looks at it, and within, like, 2 minutes, the bed's getting pushed to surgery straight away. So, I go into surgery, and I didn't really know what was going to happen. And then I've woken up, and I've got, like, I got 2 bars out of there, 2 bars out of there, and then like brace bars and everything, like proper like steel rod.
Yeah.
So I've just woken up and my arms just held there by like steel rod and everything. And it had like the blood suction machine on it, and I could just see like this red mark down all the way down there, and I didn't know what it was. And like, so I'm in there for like however long, and I think probably like 2 or 3 days later, he comes back in. And he's talking to me. He's like, yeah, we'll do another surgery, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. And he pretty much tells me, he's like, we'll do it. He's like, you probably will get a little bit of motion in your arm, but he's like, you're not going to get anywhere near full motion.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, fuck. All right. And he's like, and he kept telling me, he's like, I don't know. He's like, you might not, you probably won't, blah, blah, blah. And then my favorite part about it was, I was like, oh, so what's this big red thing down here? And he's like, oh, that's the surgical scar. And I was like, that's going to be a cool scar.
Yeah.
That's like all I could think about.
That's hectic. Show. Look at it.
So it goes,
Oh, that's mad.
yeah.
That's hectic, eh?
That was
It's like a shark bite. Like,
dude, I was telling so many people. It was so funny. I remember when I got out, I was like on TikTok and like Tinder and stuff. And I like had it in one of the photos. And every time someone asked, I was like, yeah, shark bite. So good.
That's funny.
I remember I put a video up on TikTok of my arm and like a riding clip or something. And it got like 1 million views. And the whole comment section was people beefing over what the injury was like from. And one dude's like, he said shark bite, and like everyone was like, it's not a fucking shark bite, blah, blah, blah. And it was just going on and on and on, and I was just sitting there pissing myself off. I was like, that's so good.
Did you just leave him hanging? Just let him bicker?
Yeah, I did not respond to anything.
No,
Every time someone put shark bite, I'd like the comment, so people like, and it come up saying like by creator, so everyone thought it was a shark bite.
That's funny.
That's gold, eh?
Yeah. But yeah, like I did that, and then so I had the final, like I think it was like he did another surgery, and then I had another big surgery after that. So I was like up to like 4 surgeries.
What are they doing in these surgeries?
So the first one was to relocate it. The second one was him stabilizing it. The third one was like unstabilizing it and putting it back in a cast. And then the fourth one was they put, I don't even remember what it is now. It was like 5 plates, like
5 plates is
like
crazy.
50 screws or something, and like 5 pins, like proper just driven up there. And then the end of my radius is like a carbon titanium head now, and it's like driven straight down the radius.
So you're full $6 million man.
Yeah, full $6 million.
Wild.
So it was like,
So the end of your radius is like titanium.
yeah, it's like a titanium ball to like, and it was pretty much, I don't remember if he said I think he said he'd done it before, but the person was like 80 years old. So he was like, look, he's like, it's the only thing we can do. He's like, I don't know how it'll fare or whatnot. He's like, but I think because I'd already finished my growing, and he wasn't too stressed about it.
Yeah.
So it was all right.
That's stress, man. Like, how do you deal with the stress in those situations, like with your arm and your leg?
Oh, I literally don't even remember. I think the going through my leg helped with my arm a lot.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just like I I remember I got to a point where I was like, I'm not gonna figure anything out for at least 3 months. So I'm just gonna sit on the couch and enjoy myself for 3 months and do nothing. Like, don't think about anything. I remember, and like, so when I left, I couldn't move. My hand would only go like that. Like, it would not move. I couldn't move anything. And I remember I was that bored. I ended up buying a Nintendo Switch, like the handheld ones. So my arm lived on a pillow there for like 2 months, and I just held a Nintendo Switch like that and played Pokemon for like 3 months. I just watched
Far
movies.
out.
That's all I did.
Oh, dude, that actually sounds horrific though.
Oh, it was horrible.
And you're still back on painkillers now too.
Yeah, but it was bad again, but it wasn't as bad because I don't know why, but when I did my leg, there's this drug called Palexia, and it's kind of like an over the counter endone.
Right.
So it's like an opioid, but it's not as gnarly. And when I got on them, it wasn't like, I still tripped quite a bit, but it was never like bad trip. It was like when I took them, everything like the problem was I got hooked on them, but it wasn't like badly hooked on them. It was like, I want to hook on them. I want to take them because they make me feel good. Where like the endone was like, I felt like I was gonna die if I didn't take it. Like, I
Right.
genuinely felt like I was gonna die.
Wow.
And I just had it in my head that I was gonna die if I wasn't on endone and all that.
That's crazy.
So yeah, the Palexia was like really good. It pretty much just like your whole body just went unweighted and you like couldn't feel any gravity at all. You just felt like you were floating. So it was like, it was okay, but it was still. I remember it was hard to get off them, and the biggest problem was, so when I come out, that was my 4th surgery, and this was like probably a month into 2021, and up until what was it, like June last year, I had my 12th surgery on it.
That is crazy.
Wow.
So it was like, I think it was like I went to therapy for it, like physiotherapy, and it was every second day from when I got out, and it was like a 2-hour long session of just excruciatingly trying to open it and bend it and whatnot. And I got to a point where it was like, I think it was like 3 or 4 months out, and my arm was like that to that, and that was it. And the physio dude's kind of like, I think we've done all we can here, mate. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, we're not getting any further. And I was like, oh, fuck, all right, that kind of sucks. So I was all bummed out again. And then I remember we went, what was it? We went to Dargle for a vintage motocross expo, and it was like a grass track and whatnot. And I was like, all week I was like, I'm riding. I was like, I'll be riding. I'll roll around. I need to do something. I was like, I had my wrist movement back, so I was like, I'll just sit there and putt around.
Yeah.
And I remember mum going off a brain. Dad was kind of like, don't be a fucking idiot. Don't be an idiot. But somehow I ended up riding, and
So you were an idiot.
I was an idiot. But like at first when I went out, I was genuinely just rolling around. And probably like 5 laps in, I was like riding again. Just on a grass track, whatnot. But when we got back, I went to physio like the next week, and the range of movement had gone up like 10 degrees.
Far out.
Just from riding moto.
Just from riding the moto.
So now you're a smart idiot.
Yeah, now I'm a smart. And I said it to him. He's like, what happened, mate? I was like, oh, and I showed him videos of me riding, and he's like, oh, I can't really justify you doing that, mate. And I was like, that's how I got my arm. And he's like, oh, no shit. He's
If
like,
it
yeah, you
works,
can
it
keep
works.
doing that, eh?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I'll keep doing that.
Why do you reckon? Just the vibrations, you think, freed it up? Or
I think
but like his arm was locked. Like,
yeah, so it was like I had like there to there, and I think because it was like so painful that you couldn't let yourself go further past it. But I think when you're riding and the adrenaline and you're not paying attention, it was maxing out at each end.
Yeah.
without me knowing. And I
Just
think that
freeing it
was
up.
just freeing it up. So yeah, it was like and I remember after I did it, I was like, I'm getting full range back. I'm like, I'm getting back. And then it was like 2 months later, and it wouldn't go any further. And the physio's like, I think you might have. I think that's it, mate.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that sucks. I was like, I thought I was gonna get it.
So how much do you have now?
I've got to there.
That's like
So if anyone sees my mountain bike and they're wondering why I have 50 mil rise bars with like 20 mil in spaces, it's because my reach is
sure.
like 100 mil short.
That's still like insane though, isn't it? Like the doctors were like, "You're stuck
Yeah,
here."
they pretty much like the main surgeon. He was really good at not giving me hope, but also not being a dick about it.
Yeah, not being
He
like
was
a
like,
Debbie
it may
Downer.
happen, it probably won't. And then like each time I went back, he was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, I was like, do you think it'll go further? He's like, who knows, mate. And I was like, oh, cool. I had hope.
Like realistic kind
Yeah, so he was really helpful. Like he was really good. But then it got to a point where it was like probably like maybe 6 months after it, and I started to figure out that there was things we could do to it to make it better. So the first surgery I went back and I got 2 of the plates off, and then it was like 4 to 6 weeks I had to wait. And then I'd ride for like probably like a month, and then once it got back to like not surgical hurting, I would be like, oh, right, this needs to come off now. And it was like surgery after surgery. It was like 2 plates, then a plate, then 2 pins, then some more stuff, then more stuff. And it was like, I got to like 10 surgeries, and he got pretty much everything out. And then I was like, I don't even know when it was, probably like 18 months after. And I was like, oh, I think this is it. I think this is it. And then I was having lots of like, just like waking up in proper pain. And there was like arthritic buildup on all the breaks and everything.
of. Yeah, right.
So I had 2 more surgeries of just arthritic clean and like bone grafting and everything. And it was like, I had the last one and I think it was June. I had the last one, and he was pretty much just like, all right, that's it. That's all we can do. You're done.
Yeah.
So it was like,
So in total, injury and recovery is like how
like, well, I think so. June last year, and then I'd be recovered from that by August. So that's August 2023, and I broke it Christmas 2020.
so that's nearly 3 year recovery.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wild.
And it's like not.
Wow.
And it's like everyone's like, and the problem is now I go and ride, and everyone's like, oh, that's sick. Like, oh, you should be able to go good now. Like, you're used to the movement. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, but what restricts you now? I was like, well, unfortunately, it hurts like fuck still. And I didn't think it would. Like, it properly just hurts all the time, which I don't know why I didn't think it would, but I was like hoping it didn't hurt. But
Yeah.
yeah, it hurts.
Do you think they'll get better? Like the pain or no?
I don't really know, because I think the pain is mostly, it's mostly like if my arm jags and I don't have it tensed and I'm like ready for it, it rips, and it's like proper nerve shock, and my hand goes limp, and I think it's just,
So it's like gnarly.
yeah, it's like gnarly. So like if I go and race moto, if I do a race and if I whole shot, I'll win the race because I can just ride. It's like, for example, doing that, I can win the race because nothing's weird's happening. There's no other variables. There's no nothing. But like, if I get into a race and I get a shit start, there's people going everywhere, I'm making quick decisions, whatnot, I hurt my arm a lot because I'm just doing shit without thinking.
Yeah.
And then, so the problem was, it was really hard. I didn't think I was going to ride the mountain bike again. Like, it was like, I don't even know. I'd been with Jerry probably like 6 months before I'd ridden the mountain bike again. So it was like, this is probably like a year and a half after the injury I hadn't ridden the mountain bike.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I didn't think I would. And then I kind of just, one day I rode a pushy around, and I was kind of like, I can do it again. I'll go do it again.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like, first time I rode, because it's just so many, there's so many like different things going on. It's not like a real direct sport. Like motocross, it's not direct, but it is at the same time. Like it's the same lap. The lines change a little bit every lap. Mountain biking, it's just like full unknown. Like shit's everywhere, and it's like so many little jags and pools, and
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd do it again. And then I went and rode, and I definitely didn't think I'd do it again. But it was like while I was riding in between surgeries, so like it was shit. I'd have another surgery, it was a little bit better. I'd have another surgery, it was a little bit better. I'd have another surgery, it was a little bit better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's taking a long time, but
Yeah. Wow.
What
How? Oh, you go. Sorry.
No. You
Oh, I was gonna ask, dude. Like, 3 years it took to recover from an injury. How on earth mentally did you get through that? Because my leg is buggered at the moment, and I'm struggling. Like, for you to do
Yeah,
3 years
so-
is insane.
I really think the only thing that helped me was in between surgeries, I would go and ride, and luckily for me, my mates that ride are all like I think I talked about it before, but all my mates that ride are exceptional riders.
Yeah, like
And each
everyone's
time I'd
fast,
go ride with them, I might not have ridden for like 6 weeks,
but you can still hang
and I'm
on.
kind of like I hang with them. So it was like that was the first one that noticed when I first bought a bike. I went and did a couple days riding, and I went and rode with my mate Riley King. Who's
Yeah, Kingy.
Kingy is a freak enduro rider, like
Mm.
absolute freak. And we went and did a run, and in his defense, he hadn't done the run that many times, and I'd been doing it all week. And we did the run, and he was holding me up, and I was yelling at him. So I was kind of like, fuck. I was like, each time I've come back and ridden again, it's just given me a little bit of hope each
Yeah.
time. So, but at the same time, each time I had surgery, I'd come back out and I was thinking my arm was going to move heaps, and then it didn't. And then probably by the 8th or 9th surgery, I was kind of like, all right, this is all the movement. I've just got to get used to the pain now, and
That's it.
that's kind of been what it's like.
After the second injury, did you like get bitter? Because you said in the first one you were real angry and bitter.
I don't know. I think I was definitely upset. Like I was,
Oh, that's understandable for
yeah,
sure.
I think I was more, I was pissed off, but I was like pissed off at myself where with the first surgery, I was like, I can't explain it, but I was just like a pissy person. And I think it's just because, I think it's mainly just because of the change in the drugs.
Yeah. Did you realize that you were like a pissy person at the time?
Nah, not really. It took me a little bit, and it was like, I remember it was probably like 6 months in where I'd like had a bit of a realization where I was like, fuck, there's something wrong with me, and I am being like a proper prick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the point where you're like, I just got to change?
Yeah, I was trying really hard, but it was like, because it's really weird, but I think I was trying to be too much like my old self instead of just realizing I was different and just
growing from it. almost.
growing from it and going
Yeah.
with it. And I was trying to be like my old self, and it just wasn't working.
Mm.
Like it was, I remember it got to a point where, like, when I was doing the dreaming stuff and everything, I remember the first time I really like woke up to myself and I was like, fuck, I'm like properly headspace in trouble here was when I was like probably like 6 weeks into the hospital, and I was sleeping for 10 minutes and dreaming for a week, and then like sleeping for 10 minutes, dreaming for a week.
That is crazy.
Like I was in my head, I was in there for years, like years and years and years. And it got to a point where when they'd bring me lunch and shit, I was trying to keep the utensils to try and like cut my leg or pinch my leg or something to like know I was.
That's crazy.
Dreaming.
Yeah.
So you would cut yourself to see if it was
Yeah,
a dream
so
or
like
not.
pretty much, I really remember it. I remember once, Mum brought lunch in and had utensils and stuff, and they stayed in there. And I remember it was like 3 a.m., pitch black, the air vent above me. I thought there was someone in it, like proper off my brain. And I was like, in my head, I was like, this isn't real. There's no way this is real. I'm dreaming. And I remember grabbing it and just going, stung. And I just like saw the trail of blood. And I was like, fuck, I felt that. I was like, I can see it. I was like, I'm awake. And I
Wow.
remember,
How long did that go on?
I remember I probably did it probably like 8 or 9 times in there. Like when it got really bad, it was like, not like in like a self-harmy way, like in a, like, you know how they tell you to pinch yourself when you're dreaming to wake up? I'd need to get hit by a fucking train to wake up. Like,
out.
and I remember doing that. I like I remember dreaming and doing it, and I didn't feel it. And then I like somehow knew I was dreaming, and it was like, I don't know, it's so weird. It's so weird to explain, but yeah,
Oh,
probably like 8 or 9 times I did it, and it was like,
you're awake.
it's like, it's a real self-destructive thing, but fuck, it helped. Like, it helped so much.
Really? So when did that stop then? Like, was it like as you're
Well,
coming off, you're like, don't need to do this
So
anymore? Or
probably when I got home out of the hospital, I know I'd never really, like, I
Did
didn't
it?
have to do it again,
Yeah, wow.
because it was like the hospital's just so barren
Yeah.
and just white noise, beeping. It's like it's like being in a torture chamber, man. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that sent you? I mean, you obviously said you were tripping out and stuff, but do you think that sent you a little bit crazy or anything?
Oh, like, I don't know. I don't know how they haven't, like, I understand hospitals are so understaffed, and I like will never not be thankful for hospitals, but I don't understand how they're not like getting rid of the beeping and like that low light. Like, they just like need to make it a bit lively in there.
Yeah.
And the problem was, I think I would have been better off in there, but because my leg was so critical, I was in the ICU the whole time.
Oh.
So I was in there for like,
Were you in with someone else in
yeah,
the room?
dude. So I was in there for 2.5 months. I had private healthcare and everything, not being in my own room or anything with a TV like and whatnot being set up. I was in one of the 4-bed like ICU bits,
Oh.
right next to like people coming out of surgery and like people coming like into there before surgery. So there's like, dude, there's like people from car crashes and shit coming in, and I'm like just there, but they couldn't. I had to be there because if something went wrong with my leg,
They would
they
just
like
had to be in.
they had to be people there. Like if I was in my own room, no one's monitoring me, and I have to rely on myself to make someone come in and check me.
Yeah.
Where they knew I was high risk and they knew what was going on with my leg, so I was like, I stayed there the whole time.
What was your family's like reaction, and what was their part to play while you're in hospital?
Oh, to be honest, I don't even remember. I always remember. I remember mum. Mum always brought lunch in whenever she could. She was like always bringing food in. Dad would come in. Dad would always come in when he could. But I think at the same time, it was kind of like upsetting my dad a bit. Like he didn't want to come in that much. Like he was
Yeah.
always calling me. He was always messaging me. He was always sending me photos at work. Like and like I know that was him trying.
Mm.
But mum would just come in and bring lunches, and I didn't. And the problem was I didn't really like have a lot of mates, because when I left school and started writing and everything, I'd like,
All your mates are like spread out.
yeah, I didn't have like all my mates from school. I didn't really have that many mates at school. I had like a few, but not an insane amount. Like my friend Cara, who I was really close with, she kept coming in, and Tyson and his mum Sharon would always come in, and they were so helpful. But I feel like if all my mates lived close to me, it would have made it so much easier.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it was like everything was so fucking repetitive, and like the beeping was the same beep all day. Shit would go off at the same time, so it's like nothing to break up being in there. So
Yeah.
it's so hard, and it's like mum walks through the door at the exact same time every day. Like there's no like
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So
days just keep going and going and going and going.
yeah, so you literally just had nothing like
Yeah.
happening. It was like just everything happening and happening, like the same over and over and over.
Yeah, it was fucked. I think it was
Can't even
like
imagine that.
it took like 3 weeks until I could sit comfortably on the bed, and I was starting to watch movies and shit on my laptop.
Yeah.
And it helped so much, but like at the same time, because I was tripping out that much, they kept making my dreams real weird. So it's
Oh,
like, it's weird to say, but it was like, because I'd like watched Lord of the Rings on repeat and Harry Potter and like all that, but then it'd make my dreams super odd.
yeah.
But I think it helped because it made most of my dreams not super realistic.
Yeah.
Where before everything was like hyper realistic. That was like
Yeah, wow.
memory dreams, and then they started getting like funny, so it was kind of like, oh, it helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, obviously you um mentally weren't in the great place then. How are you doing mentally now?
oh, to be honest, I'd probably be like dead or fucked if I hadn't met my girlfriend now.
Wow.
She's been that good because like it was pretty much I hadn't really started writing or anything yet, and I ended up meeting her, and she just started writing moto, and it was like we hit it off straight away, and then because she was so into moto, I got back into moto, and then it just helped so much. Like I
Yeah.
had something to do again. It was like I had someone to like do stuff with, and yeah, it helped a lot.
Yeah.
But like even now, it's like it's upsetting, and I talked to her about it, but it's like upsetting that I'm not like who I was before, because I was like, I know how good we are now, but it's like at the same time I know how much she'd absolutely love me before, like not being like super agitated and dicky and like hard to deal with.
Mm.
But we
Does
I
that
think we're
thought
pretty
like really haunt you? Does it like
good.
affect your relationship in any
It
way?
really did to begin with, because like I'd had I'd I'd had like a lot of like short, not super like meaningful relationships with lots of girls, but like it was always like I just didn't bother pursuing anything because I knew like how fucked up I was or how much I like didn't want anything.
Mm.
And I remember I met her, and it was like within like half an hour I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm keeping her. I was like, I'm gonna marry her 100%. So it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
so helpful.
Yeah, that's sick. But you're like a good dude now. Like you're fun to hang out with. I would not have called you agitated or angry at all
Oh,
now.
I'm like I'm good, but like I'm 100% way better than I was. But like at the same time, I can still get like super agitated, and like every now and again, I like have to remind myself that not to be like a dick. So
Mm.
Yeah. How do
yeah,
you come to terms with the fact that, like you were saying, you're not ever. The reality is you're not going to ever get your old self back. But how do you come to terms with the fact that you've gone through all this and you're now a different person that's grown, I guess. How do
yeah,
you come to terms with that?
it's kind of weird. I think it's like I think the main like thing that helped and the switch that helped was like I kind of got to a point where I was like, well, it's kind of time to just be a fucking adult, and it was
Mm.
kind of like you've got to be serious a bit more now. So it was kind of like that was kind of like the thing that helped a bit. I was kind of like, oh, I got to stop being a kid. Like I have to be an adult.
Biological maturity, I guess,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it was kind of like the only way to kind of do anything about it. But
Mm.
I don't know. I think I'm probably like 80% of the person I was now, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's just like every now and again, like I'm like my old self, and then it's weird. It's like it's hard to explain, but it literally feels it's weird to say brain damage, but it genuinely feels like my brain. It took so long when my brain didn't feel like it was before.
Yeah, wow.
Like just like fuck, like 18 months of just heavy painkillers, and like the other thing that really fucked me was because of my leg, I was on an antibiotic drip for like a year.
Mm.
And then as soon as I came off that, I was constantly sick. I was getting sick. I had no immune system.
Yeah.
I was just always run down and dead and just off it. So that took ages too.
So you had to fully build an immune system back
Yeah,
on.
I remember like my kidneys kept failing and I kept having heaps of problems. Yeah, like I remember in high school I went to a party right after I'd kind of come out, and I drank a heap. And when I left, I was just like like vomiting and coughing up blood. And I thought I was gonna die, but what it was my kidneys, because I was drinking all the alcohol. They were like I think it's white blood cell count was just
Platelets, yeah.
dead. Like it was fucked.
Yeah.
Oh.
And my iron count was like I think my iron count was like 8, so it was just not good. It was 7
Yeah,
or 8 or
wow.
something.
That's like stupidly low.
Yeah. So it took that and that was like, that was why I think that's why it was so hard to get off the painkillers, because it was like, I think they were helping. They weren't help. Like it was a false immune system, but it was still an immune system.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got off them, I just felt weak and withdrawaled, and then I was like getting sick constantly and just felt horrible,
Just
run
grumpy.
down all the time. Yeah.
That's horrible. Did you, after all that, would you say you're a wiser person now, though?
Um, I'd love to say yes, but I don't actually know, to be honest. I don't know about wiser, but I think like knowing the like darker part of life, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Like I think like before it all happened, everything was like 100% sick. Everything was 100% sick, and it was like it'd go down to like average, and then everything was sick again. Where I've gone from like complete opposite of sick, below average, and it's like back to average and then back down, instead of just going up and then
Sick.
down to average and then back up.
Yeah, yeah.
That
So
make,
you just
like
went to
you're
the
always,
bottom of the ocean.
yeah, you're like always running in between 0 and 50% instead of between 100% and 50.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you. Oh man, what would you say the biggest lesson is that you learned then in that time?
I don't even know, eh? I really don't know, eh? I like it's I'd love to say like just trying to tough through it, but at the same time, toughing through it doesn't help. Like you need someone's support, I think.
Mm.
But at the same time, I don't know how many people will actually like hear what I've gone through that have even gone through close to what I've gone through. So I don't know if it's like
That
like
could be
I
helpful too, man. Like you've gone through absolute hell,
yeah.
like absolute hell. And for someone sitting at home listening to this with sitting up with a broken leg is like, I can get through this because Sam got through this.
Yeah, because like I go, yeah, you go through that much. There's that many drops, but it was like, I think the best thing you can do is literally just look for like the little sparks in between everything. That's like the best way to do it. That's like what I really focused on, and how I helped was each week I would think of something that was going to happen that week that was like really good in my life, and it was like I'd focus on that. And after that, instead of like being upset that it had gone, you then look to the next thing each time.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I'm going in for surgery, and it's like, oh well, and you just start breaking everything down. It's like, well, the first week's gonna suck, and then second and third weeks kind of like you've just got to rest, and it's not really that big a deal. It's like whatever, and then it's like you get to come back again, and it's like I don't even know. It's like just going back to your square one each time, and like seeing where you can get to straight after it.
Just breaking
Yeah.
it down. Kind
Yeah,
of thing.
pretty much. Like, and I think I'm like, I think I'm a little bit like a little bit autistic, which is weird to weird to say, but it's like
Why do you say that?
because my whole life I've like IQ tests I've done really good because everything's like patterns and you break it down and it's stuff like that. So I think when I went through all that shit, it really helped because I was just breaking down every little bit. It's like today I'm doing this and then I'll do that, and then the next day I'll do this and then I'll do that and I'll do this.
So it's like a really structured routine.
Yeah. So I think if you're ever having like a really bad point in your life, if there's something you've always had to fall back on, just fall back on it. That's like the way to go.
That's interesting.
I think that's like you just fall back to what you know. I think is the best way to do it.
Is that why you kept coming back to writing?
Pretty much because it was like, well, I've done it before. I know I can go there again. It's like, why would I doubt myself that I can't do it again? And it's like, and it's kind of shit because at the same time you go back and sometimes you get smoked, but it's like, well, I know that I should have done this. That's what's cool about downhill and all these sports. It's like, well, I did this time, but I know I could have done that time. So it's like,
Yeah, it's always that chasing that brings you
yeah, I
back.
was like, oh no, I know I've got that. So
Yeah.
that's what That's what helps a lot. I don't know what it's like with other sports, but yeah, that's what helps with this sport.
Yeah.
And
Hard out.
do you have
Me
any?
neither. No, you go.
Do you have any like plans to race this year or anytime in the future?
Well, I was really keen on going to Roto and Whist this year, but I've ended up buying a house, and it's like a proper reno job.
Yeah, I know.
And it's kind of like dad, it like came out of nowhere. We somehow managed to get it, and dad was just like, dude, he's like, if you get this done, just focus on getting it done. And he said, by the end of it, if you get what you're looking at getting for it, he said, dude, you're going to be set up for life. He's like, you just need to focus on it for this year. So I was kind of like, I was still going to go to Roto because Duke was going, and we are going to get in a van and everything. And then I went to enter, and slalom was full, but I could do ADH and downhill. And I was kind of like, well, I don't want to go if I can't do slalom. So it like was a definitive decision. And then like, I was like, cool, I'm not going. I'm focusing on being
On
an
the
adult. And then like the day later, Crankworks messaged me and they're like, oh, we've got a spot open for you. And straight away, I like nearly was going to be like, yeah, I'm going. But it was like, nah, I made the decision. I'm not going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I definitely next year I definitely want to do Roto, Cairns, Whistler. I want to do them all. Like,
All the Crankworks.
100%. Like it'd be really cool to go to Cannonball at the end of the year, kind of see where I'm at, and then go to Roto and then just build each time.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. So how's the house coming along then, bro? Because I know I've been working with you
It's
as much as I can.
it's a lot of work.
Throwing bricks into a bin.
So many bricks.
Oh.
Many bricks. But like even with that, like it's so much work, but at the same time you're just like you break down the things you have to do and then when you're gonna do them, and
You see the progress
yeah,
as well.
it's not that bad. Like it's a lot of work, but when I like
rewarding as well.
yeah, and when I like talk about it with dad and we're like, oh, you got to do this, then you got to do that, then you got to do this. I'm like, oh well, yeah, that's all right. You just do it bit by bit, and it's all right.
Yeah, it comes along. It's like you pull down one chimney.
Yeah, you pull down one chimney, then you got to pull down
go
the
to
other chimney. On the other side.
Oh,
I was in there today so you like pull the chimney down and then it gets into the roof just above the ceiling and you're like properly in the roof and it was so hot today.
yeah, it would have been a scorcher. Sorry I didn't join you, bros.
It's all right.
I reckon. I mean, we've been rolling for like over an hour and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I went
Let
really
me
fast.
check. It's gone so quick.
What time did I get here?
7.
Nearly. An hour 44, man.
That's good.
Dude, I
going
feel like I've been
so
sitting here
quick.
for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
No,
it's
no,
crazy.
It goes quick, eh?
Yeah. just
When you're
flies
actually
through.
chatting, it goes
Yeah, it
fast.
just goes through. That's what I love with when you come to like work on the house. It's like,
It goes fast because the next thing you know, it's like 3 o'clock.
yeah, and then
Get
it's
on the
like,
hot chick at the pub.
yeah, you like wake up, you're like, fuck, gotta work on the house today. You're like, I'm like, Josh is going. It's like,
Yeah,
Josh,
it's good.
Josh only comes to see the girl at the pub.
Yeah,
In love with the girl at
dude,
the pub.
there's an absolute gorgeous girl at the pub. What's her name
Her
again?
name's Brooke. If she ever
Brooke.
sees this for some reason, hit Josh up.
Yeah, please do.
26 as well.
No, but she's absolutely beautiful. Like, dead set angel, eh?
Is that funny? We were going when we like walked in the door because we'd been doing a job up the road for ages, and like I knew she worked there, and she's like a really cool dude. She's really nice, and like when we walked through the door, I saw Josh like see her, and I was like, oh, he's gonna be in love 100%. And we're just sitting there eating our food. Every 2 seconds, he looks up. He's like, dude. I'm like, what? He's like, man, dude.
Yeah, I was like, holy bro, she is
Every time
smoking.
she talks, you just hear him under his breath. He's like, oh my God, she's amazing. The whole time we're eating food.
She was though, bruh. She was like insane.
No,
Insane.
That's wild.
Speaking of hot chicks, you've dated an actual model.
Yeah.
Like a real one. He doesn't believe me.
I didn't say I don't believe you.
Nah, she was cool. She lived too far away though, so it was just, it was
enough.
like we were a thing, but we kind of like, we weren't really serious because we like knew how far away we were. And it was like,
Yeah. I feel ya.
Well, it seems like you're in a happy relationship now.
oh,
That's
dude,
what matters.
literally the best.
Yeah, and Joe's
like-
a sick chick.
Jerry is the sickest chick on earth.
I just know Nutella banana wraps slap hard. Thanks to Jerry.
Oh, yeah. Jer makes Nutella banana wraps. They're the best things on earth, which she got from my mate's mum, but
Fair enough.
they're Jerry's now.
The Jerry sound.
Dude, we found Frother in Cannonball on. He's just like skulking around doing Frother stuff. I was like, oh, you come to the van, we'll have lunch. He's like, oh, sick, I don't have lunch, eh? It's like, yeah, we're having wraps. And he's just like one bite and he's like, dude. I was like, they're good, eh? He's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and they were amazing. They were unreal.
But I reckon. Whoa, we have a closing tradition. I almost forgot.
Oh yeah,
The closing
that's
question.
good. That pretty much brings us to today,
Yeah, I reckon.
to Sam Hardman's life right now, building a house and
Building a
riding.
house.
Yeah, we pretty much have a closing kind of question. You kind of asked it a little bit before, but out of your entire life, what is the biggest lesson you've learned?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Opioids are bad.
Don't do them.
Really bad. Nah, I don't even know. The biggest lesson is probably just not forgetting who you are. I reckon, like at your core, who you are, what you stand for, not forgetting that. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And finding a girl that has the same interests as you, and she's a legend. That's about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's sick.
Because otherwise, I'd probably not be here. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
wow.
It's a bit hard, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
That's
Don't
insane.
know where I would have been, but yeah, she's a legend.
Yeah, wow. Well, buddy, you're a blessing to come on.
Thanks,
That's
mate.
You help a lot. This will hopefully help a lot of people, and glad to know you're still alive and have all your limbs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the worst part was when I did my arm and got out of hospital. Like a month later, my Instagram got hacked.
Oh,
And then everyone I had on Instagram just lost everyone on Instagram. Everyone I talked to, and it was like,
Oh,
when I went to Cannonball the first time, everyone's like, dude, where have you been? This disappeared. I like show them my arm. They're like, you didn't even post anything about it. Like, what's going on? I was like, oh, fucking hell. I
Instagram.
just lost everyone. Literally.
Oh,
everyone.
dude, that's
wild.
gutting.
That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I'd hate to lose my Instagram.
Oh, and then I came back to my first race and there was just so many fast kids that I just like,
Who are you?
I didn't know what was going on. I
Yeah.
literally felt like I was from another planet.
Yeah, crazy. Oh man, but
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
really appreciate it. Hey, I got a lot out of it. Hope everyone
Yeah,
else
it
got
was
a lot
good.
out of it. And yeah, thanks for just being a legend, bro.
It's alright, dude.
Sick. All right, this has been Before the Blow Up. Don't forget to like and subscribe and
Or just, buddy, do what you want.
man,
Yeah.
no,
Do what you want. If you like it, you can if you want. But you don't have to. Just, buddy, do what you want.
on Apple Podcasts, rate it, and Spotify as well. Follow.
Or whatever. Just listen to it, hopefully.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. That's done.
Sweet.
Sweet. That was a sick podcast.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on, man.
Man,
That's alright.
Appreciate it.